Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.
Good afternoon. It's the 12th of September. And we were actually just talking about something just a second ago that I think is really important. For the past 3 weeks, there have been like 140,000 new COVID cases per day in the United States. It's like 1 million cases a week. And in the past 48 hours, a little bit over 3,000 people have died from COVID-related conditions. There's a pretty vast array of things that arise from this virus, but death is definitely one of them. And just to put it into perspective, 20 years ago, 2,977 people died. And then there were about 6,000 other people injured apparently. This is according to Wikipedia, so I don't actually know what the real numbers are. I don't actually, it says more than. But what are we actually memorializing? I think that's what you asked a second ago. What are we memorializing? Are we memorializing the war or the trade centers or people? Because I'm pretty sure that there was already a memorial. We're doing it again? Is there a 20-year... Is there like a new statue or something? A new sculpture? A 20-year memorial statue? Or pavilion?
I don't know, man. It's like...
I'm really confused about all this. I thought we already did all this stuff. Like... Maybe I'm wrong.
Nationalism is a hell of a drug.
I mean, I'm not trying to minimize or diminish the loss of life that happened on 9/11. But
making a holiday, or I don't even know what to call it. Yeah, it's definitely a holiday. Making a memorial holiday for that event when 3,000 people died within the last 2 days-ish. It feels performative in a way that, is it more about the buildings then? Is it more about the notion of this abstract concept of a nation that at this point is not unified by any means and is not homogenous? So even in the most abstract sense, the nation is not unified.
Well, there are 9 million new or active COVID cases right now, and 5,000 as of right now, reporting as of this moment when I check world meters, 5,275 new cases, and a grand total of 677,000 people have died. A little bit more than that. There have been 41 million, almost 42 million COVID cases in the United States since the beginning of this whole thing. It's like, these are huge numbers. Are we going to get, there's probably going to be a COVID memorial somewhere at some point.
I mean, I would hope at least if they're going to do this, for 20 years, because then you look at it, what happened to the Boston bombing?
Yeah.
What happened to the Las Vegas shooting? There's been so much death in this country that holding on to 9/11, it feels as if we are being gaslit, or they're trying to gaslight us in the way that they used to be able to, and they're no longer able to because they traumatized. Well, they didn't traumatize us necessarily. Within the traumatic experiences, they tried to gaslight us into certain behaviors.
Oh, so this barely made the news. Back in August, the casino company that owns the Las Vegas Strip concert venue for the site of the Las Vegas shooting, they've donated it to Las Vegas as a property for a permanent memorial, and this did not make. I don't think this made much news.
I mean, but they didn't make a national holiday out of it.
Yeah.
And this is where, I guess we can only be afforded so many national holidays before we take the entire year off because of death. But it becomes performative grief.
Yeah.
And this is where I am wondering if the previous generation got so wrapped up in performance and tradition that they are not able to dial it back when the traditions clearly become disconnected with reality. Because if we have this holiday, which is a weird way to say it, but that's what it is, commemorating this tragic event, while this tragedy is occurring in real time, then it's emotionally disconnected from reality in a way that shows the previous generation had a very hard time. Patriot Day?
That's what they're calling it. Patriot Day.
What's that?
That's the name of September 11. Patriot
Jesus
Day.
Christ, that's so
Fucking
weird.
Patriot Day. Oh, man.
What the fuck? That's so were the people who attacked us the you know what I mean? Like it's so weird, man. Because now it seems like we're celebrating getting attacked. It's Patriot Day. Well, what happened on Patriot Day? Well, we got attacked.
Well, there were a few
resilient.
people on an airline who took it back from the hijackers and dove that thing down into a cornfield in Pennsylvania, I think.
Or so they claim.
That's what they say.
And it wasn't shot down.
No. It was taken down by what are they called? Red-blooded Americans. Right?
And then immediately made it into a movie.
Oh no.
Almost immediately. Did you not know that?
I think I skipped over that. There's actually a
they made that movie really quick.
So there's this period of time in my early 20s where I went to a lot of movies, and I know this because I have a box full of ticket stubs. and I don't remember seeing half of these movies.
Bro, Flight 93 was made in 2006.
Flight 93.
Not even barely 5 years later.
Was this like a real movie?
Yes.
Holy shit.
I'm not making this up. This is not a joke. This is not me being facetious.
No, it really is.
This is a real movie, bro.
This is premiered on A&E. They made a movie out of what?
They made a fucking movie about this.
So I wonder who profits from this, because they're profiting off of the story of the death of people. That's kind of fucked up.
I mean, you mean like the news?
Yeah.
Which I just don't think Americans don't think about anything, but the fact that they hear stories about death every single day, and then they hear, and we'll be right back after this commercial break, and then go to a bunch of fucking commercials that have nothing to do with all the death and destruction they just heard about, and then they go back to some story that was completely disconnected from all of it.
I wonder how much damage the like Call of Duty generation is gonna feel in like 20 years. You know, the ones where like their after school activities is like Call of Duty, or insert Battlefield, or insert any other like ultra violent, you don't die, you just respawn type of interaction, playing war essentially.
I mean, I don't know if that is actually like they've already done studies that doesn't do anything. There are scientific studies to show that does not actually affect people. So I'm not concerned about people playing violent video games, kids or adults. The problem is when people are
No, I mean when that's just all. That's like I don't know, man. Like I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about more like the culture.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
the only
that
times
first generation.
the only
That's
times
me.
I've seen.
You're talking about me. You're talking about the people who were playing Rainbow Six and LAN parties, fucking getting together on the weekends or after school at the net cafes playing fucking capture the flag.
I'm thinking
or
more like
protecting the hostage.
like the 12 and 13-year-olds who.
That's what I was 12 and 13. That's what I'm talking about. What I'm saying
but
is
not right now.
That generation, it's no different. It's no different. And the problem is framing it as if it's different is like, oh, the graphics are better, they're more realistic. Well, it's not. It's the suspension of disbelief that matters. So if a kid thinks that they're capturing or protecting a hostage, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how graphic or
I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about the acerbic nature of the dialogue that people engage in with each other while playing.
That was always there too, because this is what I'm saying. In the LAN parties, you're sitting there talking shit to each other, like they had all the cult. Like when some kid is beating an adult, kids might get beat up at an arcade if they beat too many adults. You run across the wrong adult, and you're playing Mortal Kombat. You're fucking 12 years old whipping people's asses. A fucking 25-year-old pissed off drunk kid comes through. You beat them, they might kick your ass. So it's like there's always been a toxic culture in America that exists, and I don't think it's not unique to video games. It's just there's always bullies in every venue, which is it's not uniquely American, but it's something that Americans justify as just being the way people are, but that's not the way people are everywhere. So this is what I mean in the sense of the toxic culture. That has nothing to do with video games. That's just America. And it's in video games because that is in every venue. So what I'm saying is I'm not that the thing you're describing. Yeah, it exists, but it always exists, the internet or not. And it's like,
I worry about this like generation of people that have grown up on the internet also who are, I don't know, man, like forums at one point were definitely not a place for the neophyte to just venture in and start asking questions. There was always like a level of you had to know something to even find the place. But now there's like political discourse that is so far outside of the Overton window that it's only like political discourse adjacent.
It was always there, man. And that's what I'm saying. It was not. It was always there in that, okay, you go to a random church in a rural place in Indiana in 1985, and in the back of that church was a fucking bunch of pamphlets that would say crazy shit like, oh, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and all the astronauts are in the Illuminati.
Yeah, but I don't think it was ever as easy for the crackpots to find each other.
It was. And this is what I'm trying to say is the ease of access that the internet makes it appear to hook up, that shit was always there. They used to have key parties. So it's like, if you wanted to find something, you found it back in the 70s. You found it back in the 80s. The illusion that things are easier to find now is actually something that you have because you are good at searching. A lot of people are really not good at using the internet, so they may never even know how to pirate a film. I want to say 60% of Americans wouldn't even know how to fucking pirate a film if they tried. So this is where I mean, like, just access is not the same as it's not the same as involvement. Just because someone has access to something doesn't mean they get involved in it, or that they even know how to get involved in it because they have access. So this is where the internet gives the illusion of like accessibility to information that people who have not been trained in finding the information are then, it's basically as if they're restricted by overflow because there's just too much data for them to sift through. It prevents them from actually accessing the information that they want to get to. So in the process, the overload or overflow of noise, it makes it impossible for them to actually find things because they haven't been trained in Boolean searches. They don't even know what a fucking Boolean search is. So when we're talking, like, you almost have to be a library scientist to find anything on the internet in 2021 because there's just so much information. So this is what I mean, like, in the way that now there's a shitload of information, just because it's there doesn't mean people have access, because then you still have to actually be a specialist in searching, whether trained or whether learned, to actually be able to find information. And just like, okay, you didn't know that Flight 93 film existed, not because you're not smart, not because you don't have access to information. There's just there's too much information. Shit happens. There's too much shit for people to know, even the things that they need to know that are relevant. So it's like, you knowing that this movie existed would have been relevant for this conversation.
I probably wouldn't have been interested even if I'd have been aware of it.
I never watched it, but knowing that they made a movie about this event for the sake of propaganda is something that's important, for the sake of establishing an argument that within 5 years of this event happening, they're trying to memorialize it in film, already turning it into something that we need to, where's the film? It's like, how long until they make a film about Las Vegas, or how long until they make a film about Boston at this rate? And it's like, I'm not interested in watching the film. This is how I'm establishing the internet isn't what created the toxicity. The video games aren't what created the toxicity. There is a toxic culture of exploiting death. This isn't even a video game. This movie is taking a horrific event and they're like, let's make something that we can sell ads around. And that's just American culture. So this is why I'm like, I'm not saying that it's not a problem in video games. I'm saying it's a problem everywhere, and it's not unique to video games. It's not unique to internet culture. This is America. They will, if somebody dies, they'll find a way to sell ads. They'll find a way to sell fucking Beanie Babies. Like when Princess Diana died and they made the special edition Beanie Baby.
Didn't they just make a Diana movie?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right, bro. They fucking sure did. They just made a goddamn Diana movie. So,
yeah, it's got that. It's got the chick from the Twilight series, Kristen Stewart. She doesn't look like Diana. Well, that's probably a good thing.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Well,
no, it's not the first one either. In the sense of, when I looked at a Princess Diana movie,
there's like 16 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that took 24 years to make an addition to the Pantheon.
Like a full on. This looks like a full on biopic, and I think they were doing documentaries. Well, I don't know. Yeah, shit's weird, but that's America, man.
No, there's way more than I thought. Holy shit! There's like a list.
Yeah,
there's like 30 of them.
So that toxicity is there, definitely.
Why do we have 30 movies about somebody? I guess
about royalty for that, of all things.
Well, there's an entire cable network dedicated to Nazi history. So
we're going to find out one day that it's funded by the government at some point too, for sure.
No,
there's no wasn't
History Channel like a subsidized thing? military
I definitely
history.
wouldn't doubt it.
Lou Reed is a documentary production company. Had a UK counterpart in England. Yeah, it's jokingly referred to as the Hitler Channel.
Yeah.
This is from Wikipedia. Even Wikipedia says it's the Hitler Channel.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense then we've got 30 movies about Princess Diana. Shit, how many Star Wars movies are there?
Oh, man.
Holy man. I'm a really big fan of space opera, obviously, because we talk about space opera all the time. And fortunately, we're about to get a new installment in our favorite franchise. The Matrix franchise is getting a 4th edition. The trailer looks amazing because almost all of it takes place in the Matrix. And so it takes place in like the late 90s, early 2000s or something. Or maybe it's contemporary. I can't even tell. It just looks like a movie.
I don't know if you've watched any breakdowns of the trailer.
Oh, I'm staying away from all of that. I just want to watch the movie. I mean, it comes out in December. That's only like 3 months from today, practically, right? When does it come out?
Yeah, it does come out in December. I think December 22nd.
Yeah, December 22nd. So that's like 3 months and 10 days. I can wait 3 months and 10 days and avoid pretty much everything on the internet about the Matrix. I mean, I'm probably kidding myself. I'm going to try to avoid everything about Matrix 4 for the next 3 months. And I'm going to watch this thing because I don't want to hear I don't want to hear breakdowns. I'm not interested. I want to be like completely just like, I want to see how many of the heartstrings they pull, basically, because we've discussed the trilogy ad nauseum. I know you've seen it easily as many times as I have. I'm really curious to see just how much they reference and how subtle they are about it.
I'm trying to find out if they're lying. I'm trying to find out if they're lying. In that they said that Lawrence Fishburne isn't in it at all, and I think that's a lie. I feel like that would be super fucked up if they don't even use footage of him from the old movies. Where I'm like, if they use footage of him from the old films and not actually brought him back to set up something in the future, that would make sense to me. But they made it sound like he hasn't been contacted at all, which is where I'm like, I'm just interested to see if that's a lie. And I've been trying to pick up on stuff where I feel like he's yanking everybody's chain, and he's definitely involved in the story at some point, but not like he might not actually be physically in this film, but I feel like his image is probably going to be used. And that's where I'm like, there are things about the lead up to this film that interest me more so.
Is Morpheus also a program then?
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm trying to figure out is if Morpheus was a program all along that pulled a
he's a search function.
Well, he might have been one of the first people to pull a Smith and go into a human body. And that's where, if they're telling that story, that would have been the story they were trying to tell all along. But then, depending on what they do with this film, I don't know if they're going to set up more movies or maybe another video game attempt or something.
Well, the video game universe could probably support it this time.
Yeah, because I've forgotten. There was a good couple games, and then they did the online thing that I never got into. But I played the first couple games, and they were fun. it wasn't mind blowing in the way that you would expect from the Matrix, but I think now they could pull off something in the video game universe that would be mind blowing. So, because then they said the Morpheus got killed in the video game in the online universe, so they said that might be. It was supposed to have been canon then, so I don't know if they're making that canon in this film. But in that case, it would make more sense that he's actually
all of our favorite
too.
characters from the Matrix are programs, basically.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. And some of them, in telling the story that they did, I think that they were trying to show that some programs, this is what it would look like when programs come to life and what a living, sentient computer code would look like and how it would see themselves or how it would try to basically
So there aren't actually
in our image.
There aren't actually humans in the pods. Those are just vessels that store electricity and generate heat by
That's what we are anyway.
And
that's what the story is underlying.
So the story is really about software that finds a way to plant itself into the body and escape.
Yeah, basically. And
that's so much cooler.
Yeah, and I think that way, if that's what the story is,
there aren't even humans anymore.
And also, the Oracle was this. We know the Oracle was on, except she didn't go into a human body, but she transferred between constructs, and they played off of the original Oracle's actress's death by building it into the character. But they might have planned to do that all along, which is why when we see the new Oracle in a different body in the construct, maybe we're also seeing
if Smith figures out how to take over another piece of software, why can't another piece of software take over another piece of software?
But it's hardware. He's taking over the hardware.
Well, yeah.
In the software,
he took over the agents.
Yeah, he does the software, but he's also able to take over the wetware and go into a human, which Neo also, he was one of the first programs to do. Or we find out that he's a program that they implanted. But this is where...
Well, the only natural humans are the ones who were born in Zion. The rest of the humans could have been programs.
What if we find out that all of the people in Zion are actually rogue programs that found their way into human bodies?
That's what I'm getting at, too.
Yeah. But then one of the things that... one of the things that was always proposed by other
theorists
is that the one that they thought was the real world was actually another layer of the Matrix.
Yeah.
So that even in that construct, it's still just another layer of the Matrix. So that in the fourth movie, we might actually be seeing Neo in another construct, because then there's 10 other constructs that coexist, at least 10 other ones that we've been told about besides the one we've seen. Yeah. What is it? There's the loading place where they do all the weapons, and then the programs where they learn how to jump and do all that other shit. That's a whole construct. Because then Zion uses that.
Yeah, Zion had its docking control.
Yeah,
that was all a construct. Then there's also the train station.
Yeah, that's one that's between.
That's the bridge between hardware and software.
Yeah, exactly. And Neo's powers didn't work there. So then there was the feudal Japan construct, the perfect one, the Utopia, and then the
oh, that's right, all the ones that they explore within the Animatrix.
Yeah, the one that was all fucked up.
Well, that's why the architect said they had to create one where people could struggle, where they could output the most energy, basically.
Yeah,
more effort, more energy.
In live action, we've only really seen one of the Well, not only one, but we've seen a couple of the constructs, but we haven't seen the others in live action where we've seen them in the video games. So that's kind of where I'm wondering if they're going to. It's like, why would they go through all the trouble to make one film and not do anything with it? It's especially knowing that Keanu Reeves was just involved with Cyberpunk. I would sincerely hope that they take all their visages and put them into cyberspace and carry the Matrix into cyberspace with everyone's voice acting and faces. Like,
I think they've already got like the framework for a really complex interactive universe, and there's plenty of room for stories. I think for me it's really just a matter of, will they at the very least meet the visual expectation that they established. I mean, we're still comparing movies to the Matrix, and some of it looks dated, but a lot of it is still visually more complex than practically anything except maybe some Marvel movies. But I think I enjoy the Matrix story more than the Marvel stories at this point.
Yeah, the Matrix story, even in its,
I mean, we're still talking about it 20 years later, and still dissecting it.
I was going to say, like, even in its imperfections, in the way that it was originally one film and they stretched it out into a trilogy. The story that they were telling is more significant than all of the Marvel stories in live action, because they go more in depth in each character, and that's kind of where the Marvel TV shows, even in their character studies, they don't even get in as deep as the Matrix gets into analyzing those characters. So that's
there's absolutely room for a Matrix TV series. They could minimize the amount of reliance on CGI and actually make it about stories. And there's still plenty of room for like visual effects. I mean, we're at a point where our TV
make it about
shows,
Zion.
Yeah, make one about Zion.
If it's Zion, then it's like no visual effects most of the time.
Yeah, it's just practical effects and sets. Yeah. They could do one of those like Last Ship style ones where it's just a ship that's just like goes around and does its thing, and they've got to dial in, and then they spend the portions of episodes walking around what we see as contemporary United States or Japan or Germany, or wherever they decide to film. There's so much room for this. It's like it's this incredible mechanism for travel. They could have their sets anywhere, and it makes sense as long as there's a phone booth, I guess.
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of funny. And it's like, at a point where the phone booths, I mean, we don't have phone booths for almost anywhere anymore. I can't remember the last time I saw a phone booth. So it almost makes it impossible for them to inject into 2020 United States. They're kind of stuck in the 90s in that sense. Landlines? We don't have no stinking, I mean, there's VoIP landlines, I guess. Or it's over cable. I wonder how that impacts the interoperability within Matrix travel.
Oh, well, the machines were able to transmit wireless, the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that means that they could then transmit whole,
because they had to get to broadcast depth, and then they had to tap into some kind of communication line so that they could have, like, I'm assuming the lowest latency possible. I don't know. It's it's the physics of the Matrix are always kind of crazy because it has video game physics.
Yeah. Well,
and quantum networking somehow.
It's not even video game physics. It's a world, or what's the word? It's a.
What was that game that Megaton Rainfall?
Yeah, they go into hyper realistic physics, because video game physics, when they're done, are meant to mimic real world physics. So then it's only when you have super powered individuals like Incredible Hulk do the video game physics, do things where you're able to smash buildings and shit like that. Where you look at Cyberpunk 2077, the video game physics are good because if you shoot a gun, the shell casing falls out or ejects from the clip from the magazine or whatever, the proper angle, and then falls on the ground. That's what video game physics are meant to be, in the sense of it does a good, unless there's superpowers, good video game physics mimic real life physics. So that's where then in the Matrix, the physics that they're using are hyper realistic, but they do them in a way that crosses it gets close to crossing the uncanny valley, but because you know that it's not real, it looks like a video game. And but
for the NPCs on the ground, they have to abide by the most realistic version of physics because they're not super powered.
The whole world doesn't. But that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm trying to describe. If there's one superpowered individual, then the entire world's physics have to accommodate for that one individual to like, even though everyone can't smash a building, if Hulk can smash a building, that video game's physics have to accommodate for that. And this is where it's, what I'm saying is in Cyberpunk 2077 or Call of Duty, for example, there are no super powered individuals. So the game physics are trying to mimic the real world as much as possible. So when you jump, they're trying to mimic gravity's grip on a human being. So I don't think you have a double jump in Call of Duty. You may, but it's not like Titanfall where they give you a jetpack. So they're trying to give you, they're trying to give you an elevated sense of hyper realism. Exactly. So when in Titanfall, you can run and double jump and use a jetpack, which is obviously not something you can do in real life. So then that's where they've gone into hyper realism, and they're not trying to.
I wonder if there's a video game where they've added the element of if you shoot a bunch of bullets and the casings start piling up on the ground and you move over them, there's a chance that you could slip. Or like if there's a floor loaded with marbles, that kind of stuff. If that kind of physics exists in video games.
Well, I know Far Cry, it slows you down if you're like walking through mud.
Well, that's good.
So I don't think that they,
because like
there's no slipping mechanism.
I mean, I remember playing video games where the cars were on rails, like they didn't slide at all. There was no drift. There was no like you might hit the wall, but you could just ride the wall practically, unless you hit a rock, and then you're like, like Cruising USA, like that stuff. It was just like a RC car going real slow, I guess. But now, I mean, you drive a car too fast in a video game and you don't apply your brakes at the right moment to transfer your weight, and then you slide off the road, and then you're in the dirt and you have reduced traction, and that's kind of realistic.
Yeah, a lot of stuff a long time ago was the illusion of interactivity, and it was just reactivity on rails, and the physics were not good, and this is kind of where this is what I was getting at with the suspension of disbelief. If you go back and play Cruising USA now, it's going to look terrible, and it's going to be really hard to get into it because you've seen games that look like simulation of real life at this point.
If I saw Cruising USA, seriously, I'd probably pump like $3 or $4, $5 into it just to play it, because that game was so dumb.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. The physics, you're going to get so frustrated now by the way that the car does not handle at all the same way, especially, okay, if you drive a car for any amount of time and then you go to some of these modern simulations or video games, you're not actually it's not that big of a difference in how you're handling. So it's, you know, if the car you're driving is a Mazda Miata on a simulation in a video game, it's going to handle pretty close to the way the real car is going to handle. So you're not going to be able to do crazy shit. You know, there's no nitro boost or drifting in a Mazda Miata. So if you're driving it, you're probably at a lower level in a game, and then you're building up so you can get used to the physics. And so then there's arcade play, and then there's simulation play,
and then you get to the advanced stages where there's like a Miata spec race where it's like super fast Miatas that you don't know how to drive yet. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Exactly. So
and they trounce your built Miata.
You go from that to Cruising USA, and it's like, yeah, this is nostalgia, but then you're like, why can't I drift? Why can't I actually turn the car? You know. And
what's funny is Mario Kart will let you do all of that stuff, though. It lets you drift. Oh, yeah. It lets you throw fucking bananas at people.
Yeah, for sure. Which is why Mario Kart was a lot more fun. And then you have people doing shit like driving the entire course backwards for no reason, just because you can. Whereas you couldn't do that shit on Cruising USA. So.
Yeah. Well, a lot of racing games, they would you start a timer and then flip you around.
Yeah. Have you played any of the Forza?
Dude, those games are amazing.
Yeah, they are. I was playing those for a while just because they look so good, and
they look good, and there's enough depth to it that you can fine tune things, but it's not so heavy that you get lost in minutia. Which is the only. I like the Gran Turismo series a lot. I think it's the best. It's the one that trains race car drivers, but it also has so much going on that if you actually dive into it, you can get lost in settings.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly my problem with it.
And after a while, it's like, am I tuning this thing and even driving it and enjoying it, or am I playing the game at all? Even is this actually part of the game? And then you look at your completion bar, and it's hasn't moved, but you've got 40 hours of fine-tuning a car for one track that's only going to be good on that one track now.
Yeah. No, but then those are the
great.
People. I remember that's the game where people were doing the 14 and 24-hour races and shit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you might put 40 hours into fine-tuning car.
Yeah, for one.
Then they're gonna race that motherfucker for 24 hours.
I remember doing a 12-hour race with Gran Turismo, and that was one of those all-day affairs. It was me and two other people, and we traded off. We had to take breaks because you get exhausted staring at a screen for that long. especially with 32-bit graphics.
Yeah, man.
Ouch. Oh man, my eyes hurt thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about how people die playing video games, and I couldn't totally understand it. Where I obviously don't play that much to where it's gonna even remotely get close, because you're talking about people that are playing for days and days straight and shit. But,
yeah, no sleep, not enough water.
Yeah.
Probably pulling an Amazon when they instead of getting up.
Yeah. With you don't know which can of Monster is used and which one is ready to go. Yeah. So that becomes a weird place where you see people playing video games that stuck in it that much, and I can't understand where it's you can't be having fun at that point. You know what I'm saying?
And
it's like
the most I ever brought with me was a 2-liter of soda, and I would drink the whole thing, and when that thing was done, I was done because I didn't have any more fuel. But I can't imagine multiple monsters. After a while, that just makes you jittery, and then your piss turns orange. Yeah. Ugh. Monster doesn't even taste good.
Never tried it.
Oh man, it tastes like, to me, it tastes like the way a lot of cleaning chemicals smell, like the stuff you use to clean a floor. That's the way it tastes. That smell. It just smells like chemicals, or it tastes like chemicals. There's
it smells like chemicals enough to keep me away.
Yeah, it's like the most unnatural flavor. And I've eaten some weird Asian fruits that also have unnatural flavors, but those were real. This stuff's just like, I'm not even sure. Like with certain candies, you can kind of taste like some kind of, oh, this is what inspired it, or this is what it's supposed to taste like. You can kind of get close. This one doesn't come close to anything. Like none of the energy drinks do, unless they have coffee in them, or they're like explicitly blended with something. I think there's one that was supposed to taste like mangoes, but it definitely did not taste. It tasted like a mango if you never tasted a mango before. But that's it. Like, I don't know. I like to think of myself as a purveyor of fine sodas, and when one is just when they don't taste good, I don't know. I just don't get it.
I think I tried Red Bull once and never again.
Red Bull
is so weird to me.
Yeah, Red Bull's the same way. Like there was definitely a time when I would consume it, mostly with Jägermeister, which now when I try it is just kind of disgusting, extremely disgusting.
Yeah, I could never drink that either. Yeah. I tried it maybe one time and never again.
But yeah, like now when I think about all the things that I've consumed, it's like so many of them were really horrible. Like absolutely horrible, and I just can't project into other people's minds like why they would continue to consume something that tastes so horrible. Other than that, there's like some kind of weird psychological benefit that they're perceiving that maybe I'm not. Then again, I also will drink an entire 2 liters of soda while playing a video game for 8 hours, so maybe I'm not one to talk.
I mean, that's 8 hours, not 42 hours.
Yeah, well, 8 hours, then I can't even play for like the rest of the week practically. Yeah. I haven't done that in a while. Like it takes a lot for me to be really interested in a game to just dive right in and spend like an entire day doing that. I also have to have nothing else on the agenda to pull that off. That takes planning anymore. Wow. There's so many other things that I would rather do than sit down and play a video game for 8 hours, though. Like eat. Sometimes I wonder, we all go through some period in college when we're not eating as well as we possibly could, or, too much ramen or too many hamburgers or too much pizza or whatever it is. And I think about it like, man, if I try to do that stuff now, I would be in so much trouble. Like, I just can't, I can't even imagine like the kind of toll that would take on my digestive tract if I were to try to eat
my God.
nothing but pizza all the time again.
Yeah, pizza's rough. It's worth it, but rough in that I don't know anybody who can eat all that dough and all that cheese and not have some sort of stomach problem. Because that's where, if you can eat one slice of pizza, good on you. Good for you. And I'm not talking about one of those New York slices that's actually half a pizza. What I'm saying, if somebody can eat one slice of pizza, good on them. They probably aren't having stomach problems, but most people are eating 3, 4 at a time. And by most people, I mean me.
Yeah, I eat 4 pieces of pizza. The 4th piece is fine. It's that 5th piece that comes back to haunt me later.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
but
I
that 5th
actively
piece looks
cut myself
so good.
off at 4, Even though the 5th one looks good, I always stop at 4 and then wait until at least a couple hours if I'm gonna go for 5. So then I'll have some time to process.
It looks even better like a couple hours later after it's time to sit and chill for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Oh man, that's one of those things that's like, I don't. There was a time when I was eating a pizza like every day or every other day practically, and like half of a pizza easily.
Well, that's what happens when those fucking Jack's pizzas are $2.50.
Oh, I had roommates who worked at Mother Bear's, and for a while they were bringing home multiple pizzas a night. Like that stuff was. I got tired of Mother Bear's pizza, and that stuff's good.
Yeah.
But I got tired of Avers too, though. I got tired of all the I can eat Domino's because they actually make a good pizza now.
Huh.
But they're also the only pizza option that delivers here, so they kind of have to be good.
I mean, I don't think the last time I had them it was bad, but I definitely don't. They're not my first go-to in general. They have good. What is it? Cheese bread.
Oh yeah. Oh, Domino's is good. They've got a good system going where they continually pull. There's a Heron research group up in Indianapolis, and I'm on their mailing list, and every time they have like some food tasting thing, I generally qualify for their demographic surveys. I don't qualify for the ones that require you having children, of course, and that seems to be the ones that they send out. But I've gone and done the pizza tasting multiple times, and it's very distinctly a Domino's pizza every time. And they're delicious. One time I went up and it was a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, and I ate it. Well, I ate portions of it, and I took their money, and then I saw a commercial for it like a month or two later, and I thought, I knew it. I just knew it. Bastards. They tricked me. But it proves that I can be paid to eat Chick-fil-A. So they can pay me to do it. No, the thing that gets me about the pizza is that it's a really old concept. Flatbread, some sauce, and cheese or oil or garlic and oil on bread. That's practically a pizza. And yet we just give all of the glory to Italy.
Yeah. Really oversimplifies it, right?
Like, I'm pretty sure that every Mediterranean culture made up some variation of what we call the pizza.
I mean, African and Chinese too.
I'm pretty sure that Africa and China have their own pizzas.
Yeah.
I'd be really
100%.
surprised if it's just, well, it's interesting because I see more and more adventurous boutique looking or artisanal pictures of artisanal looking pizzas on the internet, and they've gone so far as to include things like kimchi on them. So that's kind of cool. Just how do we settle on pizza? I guess it's easy to say.
Even because then the Turkish version is pita, and that pre-exists pizza. Predates pizza. So it sounds like they just stole a bastardized version of pita.
The Italians stole the open face sandwich from the Turkish people.
Well, it's not open face. It's not just open face. It's stone oven fried or stone oven baked.
Oh yeah. And a calzone's really just a gyro, right?
Basically. But closed.
Yeah, they came up with a way to seal it like a pocket sandwich. But it's really just a gyro. Now I'm thinking about that gyro vertical roaster thing again.
You talking about spit?
Yeah, the vertical spit for gyro roll roast. We really just got to pick one and then decide on a day to use it and then buy it.
Yeah, layering meat has got to be an art.
Yeah.
Layering meat for roasting.
There's a way to do it. There has to be. Like, people have been doing this for a long time. How long they've been making gyros? History of the gyro. Why there's all recipes? Yeah, there we go. Apparently the gyro was invented in 1922. 2,000 years, according to food historians.
No, there's definitely. I mean, the word for the Greek one, probably they might have just come up with it, but there's like Ottoman paintings of
gyros.
No, it's not. It's not Greek. It's Ottoman.
Oh, it's the Ottoman version of the sandwich.
It's a doner.
Doner.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Doner. That's where, again, the gyros is a Greek word where, like, whether it was, I'm sure it had to be adapted from a Greek. Oh no, they stole it from the doner. Yeah, it's 100% stolen from the doner.
So it's over 2,000 years old.
Yeah, they just stole the Turkish dish and then basically made it work. Not it's not bad, but it's not as good as the Turkish version.
Let's see.
So let's blame Margaret Garlick for stealing it. It was, according to her, it was her idea to mass produce gyros meat cones. So.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Her husband, John Garlick.
Garlick.
Margaret Garlick and John Garlick are who created the gyros craze in America. After obtaining a recipe from a Greek chef in Chicago. This is bullshit.
Dude, I just found a Chinese shawarma recipe.
This is bullshit, man. Fucking just colonizing recipes.
It's like
creating fake histories.
It's like a shawarma made with Chinese ingredients. That sounds cool. But it tastes really weird though. But it's all.
What's it called?
Let's see. I don't know if I can't even pronounce this. Oh no, they're just calling it shawarma.
Oh, I wonder if it's from. Is it Uyghur?
Maybe.
I'm wondering how much the Uyghur. I mean, there's been fucking crossover for hundreds of years, if not 1,000. So, fucking Mongols and shit.
I bet they made shawarma too. Yeah, it's a similar process of shawarma, but they're using Chinese spices. So it's not really Chinese shawarma.
That sounds fucking amazing.
It's Chinese shawarma fusion. It does sound amazing. Yes, I'd like some roast duck in my shawarma. I think that sounds pretty cool. I mean, Chinese eat the same meats that you find, the beef and the lamb. and chicken and duck. All those animals exist all over the world. I don't see why we can't start making shawarma out of everything.
Yeah, I had some yesterday. As a matter of fact, chicken. Yeah. It's delicious.
So there's an entire range of food now, like beyond the traditional shawarma. There's a whole range of fusions, I guess. And I don't think that these things would be. I don't think we'd be hearing about them without, the advanced access to information that we have. I mean, eventually they would, like, a restaurant would show up in Bloomington that would get started by somebody who was in, like, some culinary hotspot, and they came back home to bring a piece of, advanced cuisine back to their hometown. That happens.
Right. You can get Indian flatbreads now in Bloomington.
Yeah.
Like, which is, Indian pizza.
Yeah.
But
you can get, like,
not pizza.
Yeah, Chinese food now isn't just like Cantonese food. It's Sichuan cuisine and Peking cuisine and Taiwanese food and stuff that you can get Vietnamese food. I'm really looking forward to, like, the expansion of Afghan cuisine. I really am. I hope we get some, like, really cool restaurants that are just showcase, like, the best of Afghan culinary traditions.
I was, like, looking for, something that did a combination of Chinese food and bread, and all I had to do was find it, in the sense of it was there. I just had to find it. And there's this whole element of, there's a lot more access to not only information, but then the actual dishes or the actual products themselves, where, you can order. We were ordering these Turkish dishes from, basically, I don't know if it was coming directly from Turkey, but it was from a Turkish company, so I'm imagining they were shipping it from there. Where it's like, you get the freezer packs in there, and it's pre-cooked, so it's not like it's gonna spoil.
Yeah, they get to reheat it,
trip, right? Or anything. But yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm like, man, it just got to a point where I think we found a local place to buy them that were selling. I'm pretty sure they're Turkish versions of the dishes, but it's, you can order stuff from a place. Like, if you wanted to order naan from India, you could do it.
Yeah,
if you really wanted to. And it would arrive and not be fucking moldy by the time it arrived.
I remember hearing a story from a buddy of mine who used to work at a pizza place in town. He said that every year they would get this order from this guy who used to go to school at IU and now lives in, like, Arizona or something, and he would order, like, cases of breadsticks, of frozen, ready to bake breadsticks, and they would just ship them out to him, like, once a year. And I always thought that was pretty cool. It's like this dude got addicted to the breadsticks when he was going to school. Not buying enough to satisfy a year's supply of cravings, but not enough to open up a business.
Or not enough to learn how to fucking just make
him his own damn breadsticks.
Just fucking learn the goddamn recipe.
Sometimes I wonder if they actually made them themselves or if they bought them from, like, Cisco or something. 'Cause I worked at Ponderosa once. They had breadsticks. They came in a box. It said Cisco breadsticks.
Yeah.
Man. So it's the only time I ever got to see, like, giant cans of food, like, working in restaurants. But I remember, like, always seeing, like, this, like, a giant can of green beans and just thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, do they really go through that? Of course they do. They'll go through a giant can of vegetables, like, in one meal prep. Like, that stuff's crazy. Like, I worked at Red Lobster once, and they would go through like an entire like box of shrimp, just shelling them for the night. It's actually quite incredible how well stocked a restaurant has to be, and then resupplied continually to stay in business.
Yeah. It's unsustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. The way people do it, and I think ultimately when you look at old school restaurant approaches, the ones that have existed for hundreds or if not thousands of years, where they only do one thing,
Yeah.
that's sustainable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's so crazy to see the attempt to try to do too much just to survive, and then have that be the reason you can't survive. And then I think it's whether it's a restaurant or a tech company, you know, fucking Google used to be a search engine, and now it's fucking everything. Google does goddamn everything because they had no choice. Same thing with Facebook.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they used to be a social media network or a social media platform. Now they own fucking virtual reality headsets and
they've ventured into telecommunications, interpersonal telecommunications with their giant. It's not even it's like a tablet that they put in a fucking picture frame. It's like an inch thick. What the? It's a tablet that you can't use as a tablet. It's like it's the thickness of a giant ass novel, but it's hard. It's not even like flexible.
And then the stupid goggle or glasses or whatever, smart glasses.
Oh, the ones they're making with Ray-Ban.
Yeah, dumb shit. They're gonna try to convince people that some star likes them and wears them, and then nobody else is gonna wear them. And then they're not gonna comply with privacy laws in Europe, so they won't be able to fucking sell them there. And they're gonna act like that shit isn't the case. And then the few people that do buy them here are gonna cause some fucking crazy lawsuit. Yeah, this is gonna be hilarious to watch.
They tried this with Google Glass.
Yep, exactly. It's like Facebook. They've run out of ideas. Clearly, they have no. You know, they just tried to do that Facebook Spaces thing where you go into virtual reality just to work, and that shit was a massive flop. And they're trying to act like it wasn't a massive flop.
I think Apple is still trying to do some kind of glasses type situation, but I bet that they're going to do a very streamlined version of it. Like, it's not going to be a try to do everything set of glasses. I think they're going for more for augmented reality only, like to give you this stuff basically that's already on your Apple Watch or your Apple phone. Like a widget, like a heads-up widget display, and also give you like real-time commercials when you're walking through a place. You can see, oh, if you act now, you can buy this product that's in your hand for 5% off type shit.
Just a better way to advertise to people, huh?
Yeah, you know, you'll be in the store, you'll be looking at various things that are almost identical, but you're trying to decide because you're finally in a store because you've been locked down for the last 2 years because of the pandemic. It's like, oh man, these things are almost identical. What's the real difference? And then like the readout will appear in your heads-up display, and then a little flashing thing will say, act now and you can get 5% off this product in your hand. And then you get your phone out and you press the thumbprint reader, the fingerprint reader to confirm your purchase and secure your 5% off or some shit. It's all about feeding consumerism. Yeah, hey, you know what? We are on the precipice of a new generation of consumer resurrection, because our generation's toys are finally making their way back. You know, it's 20 years later, we're getting Matrix again. What else have we done? You know, so they've got to come up with new ways to sell us the things that we already care about, and they're going to succeed somehow with in-headset commercials. Fucking bastards.
Oh man.
It might actually make things really interesting. You know, you're like in a place and there are no price tags, and you can only see them if you have the special goggles.
Well, but the model is gonna fall apart because the next generation can't afford to buy any of this new shit. So it's just a bunch of, they're only gonna be able to sell it to the older people, and then a bunch of those older people are gonna buy up a bunch of supply trying to scalp it to others, and they're gonna get stuck with it. And this shit's finally gonna fall apart because that's what's happening all across these other venues. And yeah, no, I love to see it, and I'm interested to see what happens next because we are very close to the next.
You know what they really need to do.
Lasting.
What they really need to do is build a set of AR goggles and computer glasses that allow them to appreciate in real time their personal impact on the climate and on what's essentially the onset of global climate catastrophe. They need to see that stuff in real time because those fancy ass glasses come at a much bigger environmental cost than people want to admit. Can't bake a bunch of technology into a pair of glasses without it costing something.
Yeah. Well, and the privacy implications, and I think this is where the glasses sounded good to some investors years ago, and the privacy laws have changed in Europe, especially, in a way that make those glasses not. It's like now those glasses aren't going to work in a significant portion of the world in which those glasses were meant to be a product. So I think there are people who invested in smart glasses years ago that now have a vested interest in the media not letting go of this narrative that smart glasses are a thing or can be a thing. And as you said, oh, Google tried it, but they failed because the design wasn't good. It's like, well, they weren't the only ones that tried. They're just the biggest ones that tried.
The design wasn't that bad. It
wasn't that bad either.
It just wasn't a good product.
Failed. It wasn't a good product, and nobody wanted it. It was just something that sounded cool, but there wasn't actually a market for it because when they tried to sell it, the people who could afford to buy it realized, yeah, guess what? I don't actually need this, and it makes me look like an asshole because everybody around me thinks I'm recording them, so I'm just not going to wear them. And people didn't wear them, and they went away, and now Facebook's trying to bring them back as if that shit didn't happen. So this is where clearly they're just trying to make it seem as if they're doing something to keep their stock price up for their shareholders. But that they can only do these things for so long and not have a success before the shit collapses. We're on, I'm gonna say, 3 to 4 years out from the Facebook empire completely collapsing because none of their ventures are working outside of Facebook. Wasn't a profitable venture in the first place. They sell ads, and that was profitable until they became bloated. Now that they're such a bloated organization, the ads alone can't sustain this size of a company without something being a success. Oculus wasn't the success they thought it was going to be. Fucking the program, the platforms on there weren't as much of a success as they thought they were going to be. The internet they tried to launch failed. You don't hear about that shit because it was a massive failure. Facebook was trying to launch internet in I think they started in Nigeria, but they were going to try to take it to the rest of Africa, presuming that it was going to be a success. Well, it wasn't, and that's why you don't hear about it. And they were claiming it was meant to be free, but really it was meant to be a trap for people's data so that they could start colonizing people's biodata and shit like that. So it was never gonna be free internet. There was always gonna be caveats and always going to be hidden costs that the locals were gonna be paying. And I'm glad that shit failed. But there's a reason you don't hear about that shit in America.
I always thought the balloon internet thing was just silly.
Yeah, it was always a terrible idea.
It was just silly. Like, really, we already have enough problems with people releasing their fucking Mylar balloons into the atmosphere and their latex balloons into the atmosphere. And then we're going to do this with machinery now, with hardware.
No, man, it was always a terrible idea. It was always a terrible idea. So I'm glad it failed, but unfortunately, they're really good at masking their failures, but then also hyping up the trajectory to the launch. And then when the failure happens, they don't let you know it failed. So it just disappears out of people's minds as if it never happened. And they still got the accolades because they tried.
I mean, this failed at the beginning of the year, in January this year. They said that long-term sustainable business was the problem. They found partners, but they couldn't get the cost low enough to build it to be a long-term sustainable operation.
Yep. But that they sold that to the investors that they had the technology to get that cost down, which is how they got the investment in the first place. So we're seeing all of these Wall Street or Silicon Valley investments fall apart. It's in real time, but it's slow. What was it? Theranos took 9 years to fall apart, but it eventually fell apart. And Facebook, that shit's gonna fall apart. It's not gonna be overnight, but it's gonna be gradual. And the issue is they've got enough hold over Congress people that Mark Zuckerberg isn't going to ever be broke and homeless or anything like that. It's more so there's going to come a point where Facebook's going to get they're going to mask it as like an antitrust claim or something. Something's going to happen where Facebook is going to have to offload some of its holdings, whether it's an Oculus or some other company that we don't know about that they own. And the issue being, this shit happened under a government that not only enabled it, they encouraged it previously because they didn't understand the numbers and what was happening, but they were also getting paid and compensated enough so that they didn't look into it. So all of these companies across the United States doing this type of behavior where they're building up unicorns that aren't actually profitable. This is a disease in our country that has plagued way too many corporations, and Americans just don't know how to do the math to figure it out. But that doesn't matter in the long run because the shit eventually falls apart. And that's why Sears no longer owns the fucking tower in Chicago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like a stretch, but no, that's exactly why Sears no longer owns the fucking tower in Chicago.
It's the Willis Tower now. Who the fuck is Willis?
It's exactly why it's no longer the RCA Dome or the fucking, what's it called? Hoosier Dome. In the sense of
oh wait, what do they call Deer Creek now? It's like Ruoff something.
It's not the Clip Center anymore either. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the Ruoff Music Center.
Fucking
They couldn't have just left it as Deer Creek. Like, that wasn't a good enough name.
yeah. What is it? Banker's Life.
A Banker's Life Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
Let's see what other things used to have names that changed that are just don't make any sense. I don't know. I guess people, when they throw a bunch of money at something, they get to have their name on it for a couple of years, and that's okay, I guess, right? That's the messaging. You know, if you pump a bunch of money into some kind of institution, then you can lay claim to the facility for a while, sort of.
Yeah, I wonder if the Lucas Oil will ever be sold to somebody else, and then it's like,
Yeah, the Hoosier Dome. That's right. The Hoosier Dome.
oh yeah, shit. Because then it used to be the Pepsi Coliseum, and now it's Indiana Farmers Coliseum.
It was the RCA Dome at one point, right?
No, I'm saying Lucas Oil Stadium is like a whole different building.
Oh,
RCA
yeah.
Dome no longer exists, or I don't know if they got rid of the building, but that's not where the Colts play anymore.
Yeah. But it was the Hoosier Dome, and then it became the RCA
And
Dome.
then the RCA, yeah.
Then it was demolished in 2008. Wow. What was wrong with it? Did they need to be bigger?
No, RCA ran out of the fucking. That's what I'm saying. This is like RCA couldn't afford the fucking name anymore, or the holding, or whatever it was. Then Lucas Oil was like, "Yeah, we want it," and RCA couldn't top it. And apparently, they had enough, or whatever the decision was, that make these corporations put their names on football stadiums. It's like it's a real estate purchase, basically. This is like, oh, Lucas Oil, now we're in the fucking stadium business. Now
Wow. When we gonna
RCA, now we're in the fucking stadium business.
I wonder if we're gonna see like McDonald's Golden Arches Coliseum or something like that.
There's like Marvel Stadium in Australia, bro.
I want to see the Burger King Coliseum, and the
Fucking Marvel Stadium in Docklands, Australia. I'm not making this shit up.
Marvel Stadium.
I'm not making this up.
Do they? What the fuck does Marvel have to do with?
They wanted the naming rights, apparently, so now they have a stadium, bro. Now there's a Marvel Stadium.
They play cricket and soccer and have a rugby league.
I wish I was making this up for a fucking timely joke, but no, there's a Marvel Stadium. It was Etihad Stadium before that, so yeah. They don't give a fuck. They're like, we'll take your money.
Etihad's like, hey, we don't have to support soccer here. we don't have to fly like hundreds of millions of dollars here to play soccer. Yeah, Marvel, you guys can have it. Play your cricket. I'm sure that's still utilized for soccer. Football. Let's see, what other kind of thing can we think of that's unrelated that should be involved in sports?
Well, there's
somehow?
also McDonald's University in Chicago.
Wait, do they teach like burgernomics or something?
I mean, it's called Hamburger University. Yeah.
Okay, I'm pulling this up. This is amusing.
I'm not making this up. I've been there. I've totally been there because that's why I know it exists.
McDonald's Global Hackathon. What? McDonald's has its own school of cybersecurity. I think that's fucking awesome. McDonald's wants to be a major player in the corporation wars that'll be revealed over the next 20 years. They've got to have their own cybersecurity division. That makes sense. Go Golden Arches. Holy shit. Hamburg University is a training facility at the McDonald's Corporation Global Headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. It instructs high-potential restaurant managers, mid-managers, and owner-operators in restaurant management.
Yeah, it's totally a real thing. Yeah.
I went to Hamburger U. Oh, in Germany? I love that place. No, in Chicago. It's a McDonald's. Ooh, do they have degree packages? It's kind of like a Happy Meal, but it comes with like
a bachelor's meal,
postgraduate
meal.
The doctoral meal includes a side salad.
Oh man. Yeah.
What's next? The KFC Technical Institute? Here at KFC TI, we train you on the latest and greatest in chicken fryers. Oh, you know, I used to like KFC a lot, and it's not just like a individual location issue. The last several times I've had KFC in different states, even, it's been really disappointing.
Yeah, I stopped going for the same reason.
And it's sad. Like, they used to make...
They don't want to pay people.
They don't want to pay people, and they don't want to eat... I mean, even the ingredients are suffering. Like, everything about it, the last time I went there was just sad. Like, the hot wings were so tiny, they were pathetic. The regular wings were so tiny, they were pathetic. Maybe that's just a reflection of my acclimating to industrial chicken products, where the chicken wings are the size that turkey wings used to be, and I mean,
yeah, I do think that ends up being a problem.
Because like a chicken breast, I can take a chicken breast, cut it in half, and use half of it and make a meal for Sheila and I.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's like a double chicken breast.
That's like a steroid chicken.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's the stuff that's coming out of Kroger.
Yeah, and that's where when we have so much of the steroid chicken in our supply chain, it gets hard to go back to regular non-steroid chicken.
Yeah.
And especially when you stumble upon it, but it's also not well made, then it becomes this weird thing of, oh, this is just, it looks bad when, at least if you get the steroid chicken, you get a bigger portion. So then when you're buying poorly made non-steroid chicken, it feels like a even more of a ripoff.
Yeah.
Which is where, I think there is a huge risk in buying food made by someone else in this economy, because too many people are underpaid, and there's more than likely chance that they're not going to care about the individual meal that they're making more times than not. So then it's like, yeah, you might as well go buy the steroid chicken from Kroger and then make it yourself, or go to their deli, because their deli's using the same fucking chicken that they use. And that's kind of where there's a lot about the modern supply chain that's hard to subsist in without paying for poorly made food, or then overpaying for a smaller portion than you should be getting for whatever reason when you could just get a bigger portion yourself.
I think the only
at the
one that
grocery
works
store.
out is the economics of the rotisserie chicken, because nobody really has time to like sit and slow roast a chicken. But Kroger can slow roast like 20 of them in their giant
Yeah.
rotisserie. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's one of those few areas where it's like the economics of rotisserie chicken are like incredible.
I learned about delis early on. I mean, I worked at a grocery store when I was a
Yeah.
teenager, but my mom was onto delis years ago because it's a matter of not just convenience, but they're using the same fucking materials off the shelf. So when you go into a fucking Kroger deli, you're just getting the same chicken that you would have been buying anyway.
Yep.
So it's kind of a hack where because they're not also paying for marketing and fucking Happy Meal shit, like they're only paying for the bare minimum as far as the labor and the materials. It's way cheaper to go to Kroger and get basically anything that's pre-made. Like Kroger's pizzas, fucking bomb. Kroger's burgers, delicious. And it's not gonna be, I think you can get a burger and fries at Kroger for like $6 and a drink, I think, too. And it's like a decent sized portion. It's not
Yeah.
small by any means. But people just aren't thinking this way because they're like, oh, I want McDonald's. Oh, I want the brand name that they've been associated. Meanwhile, you can go to fucking Kroger and get a bomb ass burger for, if not cheaper, and because nobody's going there to get, like, you know, relatively few people are going to that deli to get food, it's not really a big long wait. So I would go to Kroger for my lunch for a couple summers straight, where it's like, you know, if I'm working and I just don't feel like making food, yeah, I'm gonna go to Kroger to get a burger over McDonald's or Burger King. It was like a longer drive. I drive past Burger King,
And you still have to go in too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little more work, but for what I'm paying, the burger quality is way better. And I know it's not frozen. I know it's fresh meat because they just fucking got it off the shelf.
Well, they just might have ground it up themselves.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's about as fresh as you can possibly get at the goddamn deli. And that's where, you know, again, you're not getting a logo, you're not getting a Happy Meal or a toy with your shit, but you're getting the fucking the best ingredients pretty much.
Man,
With the least overhead in the cost.
was it like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, you did like it seemed like you were doing like a qualitative analysis of burgers and burger places. Like I remember, like you said something like you went into McDonald's and they, like, the guy saw you and was like, oh, got you, and like he had your order ready like a few seconds later.
Yeah.
No, that's the kind of thing that I don't think a lot of people have enough time to even consider that. I think a lot of people are functioning on some kind of like artificial urgency, or they're not giving themselves enough time to between steps, or they're always playing catch up. Because I think that's a big component in the decision to just go to McDonald's. They're tired. They don't want to do it. They don't want to go into Kroger. They don't want to go into the supermarket at all. And so it's that convenience of, I don't have to get out of the car. I don't have time for this. Some people don't even have time to research how to cook a hamburger. I've had a few poorly cooked hamburgers in my life.
Oh my God.
And you'd think that somebody who attended the feeder college to McDonald's University would be able to make a burger, but like last night, we were on our way back from Indianapolis, and we stopped at McDonald's, and man, those burgers were just not happy.
Oh man. So what I've also been doing is then I've been getting Red Robin if I actually feel like a burger and it's before they're closed. Because then I'll get what's it called? I'll place my order and then pull up to the fucking spot and they bring it out. so I don't have to get out of my car. But it just takes a slight bit of pre-planning where you're like, yeah, that sense of artificial urgency. If you remove that and just give yourself an extra 5 minutes to think and plan, you can get a Red Robin burger with garlic fries instead of, like I said, as long as the hours work. But then that's,
they've got this thing called the Family Burger Bundle. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but the Family Burger Bundle is like, it's all you need to make a grip of burgers. It's got a little tray of lettuce and tray of tomato, a tray of their crispy onions, a thing of bacon, a thing of pickles, a big ass tray of French fries, and then burgers between bread, and then all your stuff. Red Robin's amazing.
And they do you can get a brioche bun there too, which is my favorite thing for burgers. So then there's shit like people rave over Five Guys, and like it's not horrible, but you can't get a Five Guys burger that's not greasy. And that's one of my problems where
every Five Guys burger I regretted later.
Yeah, for the grease factor. It's just too much grease, man. And that's because they're making probably 75% or 80% lean burgers instead of using 85, 90% lean. Yep. And that's the difference. When you have a really fucking fatty burger, guess what? The bun is going to be soaked and it's going to taste good, but it's going to hit your stomach like you just ate a bunch of bricks. And that's where I factor that into the burger experience, where I honestly have not eaten a Red Robin burger and felt bad yet.
Well, you just reminded me of like we have a Hinkle's, a long time heritage establishment in Bloomington, and they are a flat top burger place, and they make the greasy burger, and their burgers are delicious, but you definitely feel it later.
And you can't go in there without coming out smelling like ass. Yeah, that's one of the problems. Greasy I love ass. Hinkle's burgers, but you just can't get a burger from there without coming out smelling like ass. And then unless somebody else gets it for you, that's just part of, like, that's why I don't go to Subway. Yep. I mean, not to say that Subway is good, but the fact that you can't go into Subway without coming out smelling like their bread, it's just not worth it. I'll get a sandwich somewhere else. I don't want to. Yeah,
you leave a Subway smelling like yeast and it's
not
like
worth it.
Bread that's not completely done being not baked.
Nope.
That's the part that gets me. It's like, what the hell's going on in here?
You smell like you just worked an 8-hour shift at fucking Subway just because you needed a goddamn footlong. It's not worth it.
15 minutes of Subway exposure. That's all it takes. 15 minutes of Subway exposure, and you now have the smell of an entire Subway.
Nah, man.
It's like delivering Chinese food. You actually just picking up carryout. Your car smells like Chinese food for like 3 or 4 days later. Mm-hmm. But delivering it, man, I had a car that delivered Chinese food in for one summer, and that thing never stopped smelling like Chinese takeout. It always smelled like it.
You're right. I delivered for a while, and I think Chinese food was the one that stuck in the car the most.
It's like not bad, but it's like, why does my car still smell like fried rice? Why does it still smell like some kind of shrimp dish? I didn't spill anything. What the hell?
No, man, it's crazy to be a delivery driver because that's such an integral part of the economy, but nobody thinks about the delivery driver as an entity. They're just kind of this like autonomous thing that brings the food. And, I think nobody should have to be a delivery driver, but if we're going to have them, everybody should have to do it at some point. You know what I mean? It's like, so how to treat these people, to know that it's such a thankless job where your car is going to break down. You're fucking destroying your car for some people that may or may not tip you. They don't give a fuck about your existence and why you're doing it, which is fine. But then for these people to be such an integral part of everything working, it's like, we don't have a delivery driver day for real. Really?
We don't have a bus driver day either. I think the school bus driver deserves a day. Like, seriously. Even the ones that screw up, like they get a pat on the back for like trying.
Like no, there's no National Delivery Driver Day.
You know, I've actually had a few friends who were so serious about delivery driving that they dedicated entire vehicles to it. Like they only used it for delivery. They would take out the front passenger seat so they could put a warmer in it, and like to the point that their cars were just utility vehicles, and they had a normal vehicle that they drove around in when they weren't working. And that, I think that saved that car, their personal vehicle, from the fate of the delivery vehicle. But that just seems like an uphill battle, like an unwinnable battle, because automotive maintenance isn't cheap, and it takes time. If you,
not at all,
it's really not cheap if you have to pay somebody to do it, and if you have to do it yourself, it takes time, and it requires tools and other equipment and hardware and space to do it in. Some of that stuff, if you're doing it alone, takes a lot longer than than when you have help. So yeah, that's just like it's like a variation on the server. They don't get paid enough. There's clearly not enough compensation, and the material toll that they're involved in is just, it's just not reasonable to expect that kind of service to survive. Unless there are always going to be people who are trying to pay off a car with some half-cocked idea that they can deliver their way out of automotive loan debt.
You mean like the Uber drivers that do that?
Oh, yeah.
And then get wrapped up in what was actually a scam to just get them driving, and then you find out that one person owns a ton of the cars within a fleet, and they've gotten all these people to sign on these loan contracts. You mean like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's happening in real life?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's some like unconscionably predatory shit that somehow got past like all regulation.
Oh, yeah.
We're not a taxi. No. We're a ride share.
Oh, man. And that's one of the biggest scams that doesn't look like a scam. And it's only a matter of time before that shit falls apart, because Americans don't give a fuck. But the problem is the reason that Uber can really exist the way it does is because a shitload of these drivers are now in contracts to lease these cars that they can't end up paying unless they're driving fucking 8 hours, 10 hours a day. So they're basically indentured servants for these cars that they're destroying in the process by fucking doing all these fucking pickups.
Yeah.
So it's a big vicious cycle.
Working to pay for a car only works if the car doesn't get worked. Or if you have a business model that works something like a truck, which is designed to be worked really hard, but then the maintenance of that vehicle is also tied into that business model. But with like Uber and Lyft, I'm pretty sure that like whatever they say, like, oh yeah, if you just set this much aside for maintenance and you'll be fine, that only works in like the laboratory.
Yeah.
Like on perfect roads where there are no bumps or no cracks, and it never freezes and it never rains, and everyone drives the speed limit and not faster, and they accelerate at the same slow rate so that everyone gets optimal fuel economy, and the engines never rev above 2,000 RPM. But that world doesn't exist. I remember reading one time about the operations procedure for a Prius to achieve optimal fuel economy, and it's like you got to drive slow basically, and you got to be like extra willing to take your sweet time to get someplace. That doesn't seem like freedom. That's not automotive freedom. It's like the opposite of automotive freedom. And I'm not even trying to argue that the concept of freedom via automobile is even a good thing anymore. Just that it's definitely not. It's not what we were promised with the automobile will set you free and enable all of these things. Yeah, you'll be free to pay a lot of money to get someone to try and rip you off to fix your car. But I don't know. I think that we're headed for a really interesting place. If manufacturers stop producing internal combustion engine vehicles, and so we're left with a dwindling supply of used vehicles, and every year they destroy old vehicles because they don't know what to do with them. And we're entering a place where it's only the wealthy can afford to buy gas, because that's now a super luxury, and then everyone is either on public transportation or they might be able to afford an electric car, but they probably won't be able to. We're in for a really rough ride because there's an entire economy that's based around internal combustion engine vehicles. There's an entire like maintenance network. There's a way to completely recharge the fuel supply in a matter of minutes. But if all of this stuff goes away, I mean, I know that the current administration has dumped a bunch of money into some plan to build charging stations all over the country, and there are quite a few of them. There's like just under 1,000 charging stations per state averaged out, but I think it's not actually like that. I doubt there are 1,000 charging stations in Indiana. But and I know they're trying. They're really trying, but I mean, if Toyota isn't going to build an electric car because Japan can't produce enough electricity for its population for everyone to have, who wants to have a car to drive and to power them, how are we going to do it when, all it takes is one really hardcore snowstorm to knock out the entire grid of Texas? Like, realistically, there's no way. We're just not producing enough electricity even.
There's there's 4 charging stations in Bloomington. Good Lord.
And Bloomington's
a whole 4. Bloomington's progressive.
Bloomington's progressive as fuck. I mean, Bloomington's got like all the technology. Bloomington's like one of the most expensive places to live.
Let me frame this. So there are 4 charging stations. One of them has 10 charging sites at that one station, but the other ones only have 2 charging sites per station. So there's like a total of, let's see, hold on.
14.
20. Wait, no, hold on. 18, because then one of them has 8.
Oh.
18, 20, 22. There's 22 total charging outlets in Bloomington, Indiana. Jesus Christ. You can only charge 22 cars at a time. So if there are more than 22 vehicles, more than 22 electric vehicles in Bloomington, Indiana, there is a point where, it looks like
those rapid charge stations also destroy the batteries. Like, they eat the batteries alive. That's the brilliance of this whole situation. When the vehicle's done, the next person who buys it still probably ends up having to buy a new battery.
Yeah.
Or they end up buying a used battery that has reduced capacity and reduced lifespan.
But are they able to even change the batteries out of those cars like that? Is that something that's even possible?
Yeah, they like with a lot of the modern cars, they have to disassemble a significant portion of the chassis to get to the batteries.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, the way that they're built, you can't just pull out the battery. They have to disassemble. So, like, they can, but it has to be disassembled. So
yeah, I watched a video of a guy disassemble the front clip of a Tesla sedan, the big one, the Model S. Yeah, the Model S. And he had to take off the entire front clip to drag the battery out of the... I mean, it's basically a cartridge slot, but he had to drag the thing out of it. Like... And I'm sure that with machines, it would be easier. This was a guy in his garage, but even with machines, they got to disassemble the car to get to the battery. And that's the model of replacing batteries and retaining the chassis for future use, for long-term use. But with what I've read about, the Model Y having fitment issues and assembly issues, and sometimes having to go back to the dealerships to get taken apart and put back together so that the panels fit properly. Like shit, like doors not closing properly because the hinge is out of alignment, so that to shut them you have to slam them. These are, at least the internet is reporting this stuff. people who bought the cars are saying, hey, this is what happened when I bought this thing. I had to wait 3 extra months to get the specific options that I requested, and then it still came broken or didn't fit right. I'm just surprised that a car company that manages to turn out a product with complaints like that, like, nobody says that shit about Mercedes.
Right? Well, that's because Mercedes isn't trying to build fucking robots.
Yeah. Well, they might be, but they're really quiet about it, and they're not fucking trying to build a space platform too.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet, you know what? I bet their AI that Mercedes releases is actually going to work. It might.
Yeah, because it's only meant to do one thing, and that's like
be part of the car.
Yeah, exactly. So I do imagine, but that they're also not trying to sell their company as being an AI company. So when Mercedes works on AI, their stockholders aren't shaking in their boots if something doesn't work immediately.
I don't think Mercedes would release an AI or even announce it if it didn't work perfectly. Like, I mean,
they have a whole artificial intelligence center at Daimler, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not marketing it because it's not ready for prime time, and they know that, and they're not going to do it until it's ready for prime time. And by the time it's ready for prime time, it's going to be so rock solid that everyone will act like it's been there the whole time.
I mean, but I don't think it's not a product in the sense of.
Oh, I know. That's what I mean. It's just going to be built into the car.
Yeah, and that's where Tesla is trying to frame their shit as if it's a product to then be part of their product line, which then bolsters their stock price. And that is why, yeah, you can find a bunch of articles about Mercedes using AI, but you don't have I wouldn't even be able to tell you who's the fucking head of Mercedes right now because he's not out there like fucking Puff Daddy dancing all his workers' videos.
Throwing bricks at the side of their cars. Yeah, can you imagine like the CEO of Daimler like throwing a brick at one of their S600s? It would probably bounce off. Dancing on stage. Oh man.
Yeah. No, and you know, whenever he threw that steel ball at the window, there's some engineer in the back cringing, like, I told him it wasn't ready. I told him it wasn't ready. Just in the back, he never listens. He never listens. Because you know, some engineer was like, okay, it'll be ready in like 2 months. We shouldn't be showing it today. But if you do it today, whatever you do, do not throw a steel ball at the window. Whatever you do, Elon, dude, I don't know why you have that steel ball. It's cool if you're just using that for display. Whatever you do, do not throw it at the window. They are not ready. They are not ballistic proof yet. Or they do not have the ballistic resistance that we were planning. That's 2 months down the line. Please, Elon, whatever you do, don't do it. Here comes Elon dancing on stage. And that's what I'm like, there's no way the engineer who built that shit actually approved him doing that test live. The way that all of these stories are coming out, talking about how he's like walking around with his phone out looking at YouTube and shit. He totally sounds like Michael Scott. They totally make Elon sound like Michael Scott. And this is where...
Well, they did push really hard to get Starlink to send YouTube to the cars. They did. That's the thing.
And he wanted to make sure that the cars can all have video games in the consoles, which is where I'm, as a video gamer, I'm like, okay, cool. But does the car drive correctly? Does it run into emergency vehicles when the self-driving mode is engaged? Because that's what I'm more concerned with. Pong's cool, but this whole running into emergency vehicles thing is not cool. So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that there was like it was a custom car. There's a package that you could install in GMC passenger vans with their entertainment system to include the Nintendo 64. So, I mean, it's been done. Not internet cloud-based video games, but, you know, somebody managed to shoehorn a Nintendo 64 into a passenger van once upon a time. So the metric for getting a game to work in a vehicle is not very high, or the bar is not high. And I think we've all had YouTube in our cars because of our cell phones for the past at least 10 years now, it seems. That's not that big of a deal either. I'm pretty sure that every one of us who had a laptop figured out a way to hook our laptop up to the car stereo and watch a movie in the car on our way on some road trip at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's nice that it's all baked in. That's kind of cool. And it does look pretty. It does. But I also don't want to fucking... How big is that thing? Like 15-inch display? That shit's insane. I'm not a fan of the giant tablet inside the car.
Yeah, it's just too distracting. It
17
sounds like it'd
inches.
be cool, but when you're driving, which is also when obviously they're trying to get autonomous, but it's not there yet. So it's over designed in a way that is actually very dangerous for people on the road with other people. Especially if someone is by themselves. I would imagine they restrict the screen from playing anything visual while you're driving. I would hope.
Except a map.
Right, except a map. But people hack around that shit, which is the real problem.
Yeah.
Like I know on my DVD player on the car, I could hack around it, but I actively don't, just so I don't end up getting in that situation.
I always thought the point of a DVD player in a car was so that you could have like an entire library of audio to listen to.
I mean, that's part of it, but then if you're sitting, like if I'm at the airport waiting, I can watch a movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you can. But even then, if you have a DVD with audio, it's probably not going to play while you're driving. So that wouldn't even work really. Like it doesn't allow you to play. Oh no, it does not. Well, it plays them, but it doesn't allow you to access the menu. So if something is audio on DVD, it would have to be like tracked as if it was audio anyway for that to work while you're driving. Unless you hacked it and unlocked it. But.
Yeah. But nowadays we can just plug a jump drive into most stereos and just play all of the audio content on that jump drive. Or plug your phone into it now, right?
Right, yeah. So, or you don't even have to plug it in on a lot of them. They're wireless.
Bluetooth, Bluetooth. I wonder, like, how many of these things that they're adding to cars are just solving problems that don't exist? Or problems, or solutions looking for problems.
Because if you look at it, a lot of the additions to the cars are aesthetic electronics that have nothing to do with the road at this point. So that's where I do look at a lot of anything in the last 15 years that's been added onto a car, probably interior and probably not actually helping you drive better. So across all brands, not just Tesla.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some things that I think are pretty cool, like the LiDAR assisted like cruise control stuff that'll slam on the brakes for you if the vehicles in front of you start slowing down really quickly. I think that's cool.
You can add that onto an older car though, which is where there's things that they sell as if it's on this model, but it's like, no, you can add that on any model car as long as it has a computer. Well, as long as the computer interacts with a certain...
It's like all the advances make previous iterations obsolete, when the reality is all of these new advances can be added to previous iterations with almost zero development.
Yep.
Just plug it in. It fucking works.
This is the benefit of cars being based on, they've been using CPUs for decades now. So there is a benefit to that. But now we're getting to the point where it's like, yeah, you can just modify your own.
Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional radio.
Set the course for Earth.
Exceptional radio.
Engage base drive. Digital modulation of genetic code commence.